wanted to ask about First Guardian and Shell. I understand some responsibility that sits with Markets Group. I think we asked in a question on notice, which is SB 195, how many pieces of advice you'd provided, Treasury provided to the government since 2022 on the problems with the regulation of managed investment schemes, and I believe it was 7 times. I just want to confirm that's correct, and you're familiar with the response to the question on notice?
Yeah, Andre Moore, Assistant Secretary, Advice, Insurance and Capital Markets Branch. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We also asked for the dates of that advice, and the dates were not provided in your response. Is there a reason for that?
I don't have the dates with me, so I have to take that on notice.
Do you recall removing the dates from the answer to the question on notice? It's just a strange omission because we asked for the number of times advice had been provided and the dates for any advice, and no dates were provided in response to that.
No, that was our response to that question on notice.
So I'm just asking, was the omission intended or accidental?
Senator, the department will draft an answer to your question on notice. Ultimately, it's the government's answer to the question on notice that comes to you. If you want us to come back on the exactly what happened with that question, we can take that on notice.
Was it a draft copy of the response that would normally be provided to the Treasurer's office?
As a matter of routine, when we draft the answers to questions and notice, they will all go through the relevant officers or the Treasurer's office before being provided to the Senate.
Okay. I'm just wondering, were the dates removed at that stage of the process then?
We'd have to check that. I'll take that on notice.
Okay. If you could take it on notice, and as I said, we...
If they were specifically requested but not provided, then the first draft that went to the Minister's office would have included the dates.
I have to check that and look at the sequence of the drafting of that response.
Okay. Sorry, Senator.
No, that's quite all right. Beyond those 7 written briefs that were provided that you advised us of in response to that question on notice, were there any other additional meetings, calls or informal discussions with the Treasurer, Assistant Treasurer or their officers regarding problems with the managed investment schemes?
Are you talking about managed investment schemes?
With the regulation, rather, of managed investment schemes, yeah.
It's an issue that we do obviously have regular discussions with the Minister and his office about these matters. A lot of that's happened in the context of the Shield First Guardian matter, but also more broadly as well. And yes, matters concerning the regulation of managed investment schemes does come up in those discussions.
Okay, so you've provided advice at least 7 times and had discussions as well about the regulation of managed investment schemes and highlighting some of those risks. Have there been any reforms or steps initiated since 2022 to address some of the problems Treasury identified?
In respect of managed investment schemes, I'm not clear what you're talking about in terms of issues that Treasury has identified.
Well, I believe in response to the question or notice, you'd confirmed you provided 7 pieces of written advice to government on problems with the regulation of managed investment schemes.
Yeah, so much of that advice would have occurred in the context of either establishing or through the course of and after the managed investment scheme review that Treasury commenced in 2023 and concluded in 2024.
And has any action been undertaken since that review? Legislative reform, other changes, regulatory reform?
Not specifically in relation to managed investment schemes.
Okay, so the same vulnerabilities or challenges that you've identified in those at least 7 written pieces of advice still exist today? When it comes to the regulation of managed investment schemes.
So the purpose of the review was to examine whether the regulatory framework for managed investment schemes was fit for purpose. The terms of reference of that publicly available, so you can see those. And the work that we did and the report that was produced attended to those issues.
But there has been no legislative or regulatory changes since?
No, the report sits with the government.
The report sits with the government, okay. We also asked in a question or notice about the Treasurer's statement of expectations for ASIC. It's normal to do a statement of expectations for regulators. We didn't get a response by the deadline on that. Is there a draft statement of expectations with the Treasurer or his office currently?
Senator.
Just a second.
So following the Economic Reform Roundtable, there were statements made by the government about updating statements of expectations to make sure the kind of right balance between the objectives of the regulators and red tape. We are now going through a process to update statements of expectations in the portfolio. We have just very recently provided an updated draft statement of expectations to the government.
You say an updated draft, but as I understand it, there wasn't a statement of expectations for ASIC in place.
There's been the last version. So there is an existing statement of expectations for ASIC. It was last updated in 2021.
I was going to say, it dates to the previous government though, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the last statement of
It stands. You'll find it on the ASIC website as the current statement of expectations.
Okay, so there have been no changes to the statement of expectations since 2021, and the draft that's currently with the Treasurer, is that the first draft that has been provided to the Treasurer?
I understand in 2024 there was a draft provided then, Senator.
In 2024?
Yeah.
But that draft was never approved?
It was never finalised, Senator. No.
Never finalised. Was there any reason given for that?
We just have to take that on notice whether we received this record of why it didn't progress.
Okay, so it seems like quite an oversight. I just wanted to also ask as well about anti-hawking.
Can I just say on the ASIC
Yeah,
thing?
of course, sorry. Go ahead, Senator Bragg.
Do you mind? Just with the ASIC thing. So, there is no, just to be clear, so the Treasurer Chalmers has not made a statement of expectations for ASIC.
The Treasurer has not released a new statement of expectations. There is a standing statement of expectations for ASIC that's still current.
Sure, but when you say new one, you mean new statement, thereby perhaps you are inferring that he had one before, but he hasn't ever had one, has he?
So there is an existing statement of expectations for ASIC. In some ways that belongs to the government. The government hasn't changed it, hasn't updated it since coming to power. So there is a statement of expectations. That's the basis on which ASIC's operating. What I did say was we have previously provided a draft of an updated version of that, or a kind of revised version of that. And we've more recently provided a further one following the Economic Reform Roundtable, specifically focusing on those aspects coming out of the roundtable.
And does it deal with these law enforcement issues? Does it encourage them to do a better job and to actually put people in jail?
Senator, that issue of that aspect of their functions, that's already covered by the existing statements of expectations.
We're at 10 minutes for this block. Can I just clarify that though? That last statement of expectation to ASIC, that was provided to this chairman of ASIC or the previous chairman of ASIC? It was clearly provided by the previous treasurer, but was it to this chair or the previous chair?
It was the current statement of expectations with ASIC was finalised shortly after the current chair became chair.
Right, so it was for Chairman Longo.
Yes.
But it was from Minister Frydenberg.
That's right, Senator.
Thank you.
And Mr, the current chair actually had a chance to comment on that statement before it was finalised.